Okay, I think we're live. I'm gonna have to check that. I never trust YouTube on my computer. I always look at YouTube on my phone to double check. But hopefully we're live. Oh, I just realized my microphone wasn't in front of my mouth, so you might not have heard any of that. But okay, yes. We are officially live with the correct thumbnail and title too, so that's exciting. So anyway, this is hopefully going to be a weekly thing that I do, where I go through the news over the past week in terms of video games. Just get my quick thoughts on them because not everything deserves a full video. I'd like to just be able to do it all in one chunk regularly. And a lot of this stuff just, really doesn't deserve a full video anyway, because I want to stick to the game design aspect of it more, not so much the industry stuff. Maybe if I find another interesting way to do that, I'll do something else. But for now, I like how we're doing it with just going through some of the bigger news stories of the past week and just giving my thoughts on them, because it's always fun to share things with people. But anyway, but that was the plan. Cause if you see this on the screen, you might be wondering why this is not video game related, because I just saw this moments before going live here. Snoop Dogg says he's giving up smoking after years of marijuana use. What? No way. No one is going to believe this. Maybe he's saying he's going to switch to edibles. I think I read something about him having a line of edibles coming out at some point soon. But he's saying he's giving up smoking. That, Snoop giving up smoking weed? No way. No way. It's impossible. Maybe he thinks he is, but it's not going to actually happen. But my favorite thing here. Oh, God. I need a better monitor set. My favorite thing here. He announced this on Instagram and X. He posted this picture. After much consideration and conversation with my family, I've decided to give up smoke. Please respect my privacy at this time. It's like someone died, like his parents died or something, and he's like, please respect my privacy at this time, like with the black and white photo. I mean, this is I don't know. Thing is, I actually I do follow Snoop Dogg on Instagram, and he posts the most boomer stuff. It's like memes your grandfather posts is what Snoop Dogg posts on Instagram. I don't know about Twitter. I don't really use Twitter that much, but I'm trying to get more into it. But let me see. Let me just double check one more time that we are officially live. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll move away from this topic. But I just thought it was funny. Into the first real topic. Game Awards. Game Awards nominees came out on Monday. It's been a lot of conversation about them since then. Let's just dive right into it. Game of the Year. Here are the nominees for Game of the Year. Alan Wake 2. Baldur's Gate 3. Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Resident Evil 4. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Let me see if I can zoom this out a bit so it's... Yeah, we're... Okay. Just so it looks a bit better. If I need to make myself smaller too, I will. Let's zoom in once more. Okay, alright. I like how this looks. So. A lot of conversation about this, of course. What I'm noticing now, just as I'm reading out all these names, there's a lot of games here with numbers in the titles, which is not something you see actually as much as you used to. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4. It's interesting. It sucks because you could almost... Well, I was going to say if one was labeled 1, which none of them are technically, the first in a series of anything. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4. But we're almost there. But anyway, okay. Let me just run through them again, in case I forget. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So, before we talk about what's gonna win, let's talk about what is not in here. Which people talk, like, it's funny. The conversation is so much more about what's not in this list than what is in the list and will win. And you know, it is fun to talk about what didn't make it in, because it's fun to talk about. It's fun to talk about failure. Of course, the big one here is Starfield. Now, Starfield cannot be in a list like this, because, you know, it is, you know, I haven't played Starfield yet, so I'm not gonna like sit here and, you know, talk too much about the game's quality. But what I will say is that, you know, the review scores and the general sentiment that I've seen online are like the attitude, the public attitude, whether it's reviewers or whether it's just people, you know, talking, or regular people who play games. The attitude is, you know, much less favorable for Starfield than it is for all of these games here. You know, I feel like, okay, the one in here that a lot of people have been pointing to that should not be in here. Well, actually, there's two. The first one, Resident Evil 4, because it's a remake. I haven't played this one either, so I'm not going to say, you know, too much about the game specifically. I have played the original Resident Evil 4, and that's a really good game. You know, it, like, I think to people it feels like cheating, like just remaking one of the greatest games of all time. That's, you know, I can see the argument for it being a remake, because it's not just totally all original material that they're creating here. You know, you could almost make the same argument for Tears of the Kingdom, honestly, although, you know, well, there's, never mind, forget I said that, because there's a lot new in Tears of the Kingdom that that justifies it in a list like this. But Resident Evil 4, you know, I think when it comes to remakes, the thing is, as far as I know, I don't think there is any official rules in the Game Awards about remakes not being able to be nominated. Because when you think about it, like, it would be kind of weird to have a rule like that, because, like, it's still a game that released this year. It's still a complete experience. It's a better game than a lot of other games that have come out. So, you know, and you do have to also, like, kind of draw a weird line with remakes, because there's a spectrum of how much a game is remade. Like, if this was just the original Resident Evil 4 HD, or let's say Metroid Prime Remastered is a great example here. That came out this year. That's a, you know, if that was a fully original game, if Metroid Prime never existed and it just came out this year, that would probably be in this list. But because, you know, no matter the game's quality, because it is a straight, you know, enhancement, it's a big enhancement, don't get me wrong. Enhancement of the graphics, enhancement of the controls, especially. But the actual game is still the same. All the level geometry, I'm pretty sure, is like exactly the same. Like, there, you know, it's Metroid Prime. It's nothing big change. But from what I understand, Resident Evil 4 is a bit higher of a higher degree of changes to it that Metroid Prime Remastered does not have. I just realized I'm not showing the chat on here. How do I see that? Docs. Chat. Ah, there it is. Okay. Oh, Jesus. That's not what I wanted. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All right, now it's working. I don't know. Things just moved around, strangely. But anyway. So the big, you know, enough about Resident Evil 4 though. The big one that is not included, in this list, like I said before, is Starfield. You know, I think almost any other year Starfield would be in this list, but because 2023 is such a stacked year, there's just not room for it. You know, I can see the argument with Resident Evil 4. I didn't finish my point on Resident Evil 4. But there is, like I was saying, there's a spectrum to remakes. I think Resident Evil 4, from what I understand about it, again, I haven't played it, so, you know, I could be wrong here. I think it, you know, steps over the line of enough changes in order to be considered like a new game. Like the Resident Evil 2, people talk about, oh, Resident Evil 2 was nominated before. Resident Evil 2, like that is a new game that's just named the same thing as the old one. Like that, it's like technically it's a remake, but it's essentially a new game. It's as much of a remake as Final Fantasy VII Remake is, which is also, you know, probably going to be in the Game of the Year list next year. It didn't win the year. I'm sure it was nominated, but it didn't win whatever year it was nominated because that was only a couple years ago. But it you know, I think it does enough new to justify it. Like if they're changing the level geometry, if they're changing how the controls work, if they're redoing a lot of the cutscenes, even though it follows the same general plot and the beats, you know, village, castle, laboratory, that's, you know, that's understandable for why it would be here. And Starfield, you know, it missed it, and it sucks for Starfield, but it just wasn't the year for a game like that. Another game that I've heard talked about that did not make it into this list is Hogwarts Legacy. Now, I've been playing Hogwarts Legacy like over the past week or so. I just picked it up. It's a fine game. It does not deserve to be in a list like this. Like, you know, yes, there's controversy about it, but like that fully aside, it is leagues below every single game here. I'm confident in that. But, you know, it's good. Like it's very by the books in terms of, you know, open world, semi RPG, semi action games, and it does, you know, it doesn't do a lot new. I actually really like the combat system in there. That's probably my favorite thing about it. You mixing up different spells and seeing what you can do to just torture goblins. But it like the quality is just not there to be in a Game of the Year list, and that's not even about this year in specific. That's about any year. It should really be out that. Like if you're gonna nominate Hogwarts Legacy, you have to also nominate whatever Assassin's Creed game released that year, because that's about the level of quality it is. Which I don't say that to say anything bad about Assassin's Creed or bad about Hogwarts Legacy. But it's, you know, it's very by the numbers in what it does. And, you know, it's, you know, it has an audience, clearly. Hogwarts Legacy has an audience, as does Assassin's Creed. Or something like Call of Duty. You know, Call of Duty is never in the Game of the Year list, even though it's the top selling game every year. It's like sort of a more mass appeal thing, which for Hogwarts Legacy needs to be a mass appeal thing, because it's the fucking Harry Potter franchise. So, you know, it's a fine game. I'm enjoying it well enough. I'm feeling more burned out on it than I wish I was. I think I'm close to the end. I'm probably like 3/4 of the way through, I would guess, based on the story. But it's just not, you know, it's not Game of the Year material. is what I'm saying. So it, you know, that's too bad, but it's, oh shit, hold on, just trying to see reviewers. That's great. So anyway, let's talk about what's going to win, because I think, you know, a lot of people are saying Baldur's Gate 3, and down here we've got Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I gotta say, one thing, let me talk about the middle of the pack for a minute. Not Resident Evil 4, not those two. Alan Wake, another one I haven't played. I have not played Alan Wake 2. I haven't played the first Alan Wake, so I didn't see the reason to jump into 2 without playing the first one. So I'll get around to them eventually. It looks, I don't know, it looks very good. People seem to be enjoying it, so that's cool. Spider-Man 2. I didn't pick up Spider-Man 2 either. I've played Spider-Man Remastered and I played Miles Morales. And to be honest, it's not that just I haven't gotten around to it yet, kind of. It's more I'm not that interested, I think. It looks good too, but it looks basically like, the first one. Like, it doesn't look like it really changes, like, what does it add that the first one doesn't have? Like, it'll look better, I'm sure, yeah. It'll have a different story. But, yeah, like, that's the kind of game I want to pick up when it's on sale. Super Mario Brothers Wonder, I did play. And, I gotta admit, I'm surprised to see it here, kind of, because generally, the Game Awards doesn't really reward 2D platformers all that much, unless it's like an indie game, like Celeste was nominated. But anyway, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is a fantastic game. I mean, I feel like if there's one that could really surprise people in terms of winning, it would be Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I really like. We talked about these two, Baldur's Gate 3 and Tears of the Kingdom. If we're going to go to third place, I think it would probably be Mario Wonder, just because it's the most unique out of all of these. It's a great game. It's worth it. It's worth the hype, definitely. Worth the wait. Worth getting away from the new Super Mario Brothers Series 4. All right. Tears of the Kingdom versus Baldur's Gate 3. Look, I would say my enjoyment of these two games was about equal, and both were very high. But the thing is, like, these are kind of just such different games that you almost really can't have a debate between them, because like the combat's different, the writing's different. Aside from the fact that they're fantasy games, everything is different. If this was, Tears of the Kingdom versus Elden Ring, I think you could have that discussion more, because, Elden Ring is quite similar game to Tears of the Kingdom. Baldur's Gate 3 is, I feel like, okay, so the one I think will win and the one I want to win are the same. And that is Baldur's Gate 3. Because even though I say my enjoyment of these is about equal, one thing is, in terms of it actually winning, I think that the Game Awards loves an underdog story, which Baldur's Gate 3 absolutely is. Like, who heard of Larian 2 years ago? I mean, people like the Divinity games, but, it is so far below the success that Baldur's Gate 3 has had. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, while a great game, I think it shook the industry a little bit less, just because it's the sequel to Breath of the Wild. You expect it to be good. It would be weird if it wasn't good. Baldur's Gate 3, it's kind of like, who expected this to come out, be this sleeper hit of 2023. Because it's a fantastic game. It does, it's probably one of the more, I've never played the early Baldur's Gate 3 or Baldur's Gate games or things of that nature. But this was one of the more unique games I've ever played, really, in terms of the choices actually mattering in the world. The fact you can just kill your party members and they'll be dead, permanently dead for the rest of the game. The fact that you can be so evil as you want to be. The combat, oh my god. It's it's the most intricate and versatile combat I've ever seen in a turn-based game. it's awesome. It's a really great title. And so I want the game industry to take more from Baldur's Gate 3 than they would take from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, because Tears of the Kingdom, while great, it is kind of a better version of Breath of the Wild. Yes, the story's different temples. Ultra Hand is a feat of technology that you'd have thought never possible a few years ago. But at the end of the day, it's not setting the world on fire, I don't think, like Breath of the Wild did. And not every game can be the greatest game of all time, which you can make as an argument for Breath of the Wild. But Baldur's Gate 3 is, I think is going to be much more of a trendsetter, and I hope would be much more of a trendsetter, because I would love more developers to do non-linear storytelling in their games and have, choices matter. Games are, the only interactive medium. Why not let the interactivity play more of a role? So, yeah, that's basically all I have to say on Game of the Year. It's gonna be one of those two. Alan Wake 2, while good, I just can't see that. I don't know. Anything's possible, I guess. It could be one of those kind of underdog things. If it had come out earlier in the year, maybe Alan Wake 2 just came out, I do think it gets a bit of recency bias probably. And then Resident Evil 4, it reviewed very, very well. It's a game I've been wanting to play for a while. And then Mario Wonder, Mario Wonder could come out from under and take it. You never know. It is, probably it's going to be the most successful, it probably will be, I guess it could become the top selling 2D platformer ever. The only thing is, I think Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers, is probably the top selling one, except that was a pack-in game. So if you don't count that aspect of it, then Mario Wonder probably will become the top selling one, which is good to see, because it deserves it. The thing I kind of want to just say about the Game Awards as a whole, though, the thing is there's a problem with the Game Awards, and this is something I kind of considered making a full video on, but I'll just say it here because I don't think it quite justifies that. The Game Awards positions itself as the Oscars of video games, which it can't be that, because it's not because of the commercialized aspect, because the Oscars are just as commercial. Really, they pretend like they're not, but they are, and the Grammys and all that. The problem is, the people who vote in the Oscars, they are not journalists and reviewers and critics like the Game Awards. In the Oscars, it's people in the industry voting. And the way it works is, so everyone, and there's people in all aspects of the industry. The reason that, sound editing will be a category in the Oscars is that it's all these sound editors, working sound editors in the film industry, voting on who is the best sound editor out of all of them. And so, you're elected by your peers, people who know how movies are made. And it's the same thing for the Emmys and for the Grammys. The Game Awards is not that. The Game Awards is journalists. And so it's almost like a Critics' Choice Awards. And then there's the 10% voting for online, which maybe that could be a tiebreaker, but it's so negligible. It it really doesn't matter. Like, I don't even know why they have that. I guess just they think to get a little bit more engagement, but like, I don't know who votes in these. Tell others to vote. You can vote. So if you're looking for an award show that is more an equivalent to the Oscars, something where it's game developers voting for games, game of the game of the year, best narrative, best best cinematics, best what is it, graphics, I guess. They probably have a more fancy way of saying that, but best score, things like that. What you'd be looking for would be the DICE Awards. That is, game developers working in the industry voting on what they think is a good game, or the best game. So that's really the Oscars of video games. This, it brands itself like the Oscars of video games. It, like, you go on this website, it's all like very sleek. It, like, it's got this little emblem up in the corner there. You can't see my mouse, but up in the top left, it's got the little emblem, the nice trophies. It presents itself very well. It's a fun watch. I think the fact that they have like trailers and announcements is pretty cool, because like if the Oscars said, we're going to be announcing a bunch of movies in between the awards, I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Like, yeah, I'd watch the Oscars then. So, it is what it is. It's not the end all be all of what is the best game of the year. A lot of the times the Game of the Year awards at the DICE Awards and the Game Awards have lined up, but not all the time. So I would look into that. Maybe I can pull that up later if people have interest in seeing that. But anyway, let's check out some of the other categories. Best Game Direction is for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. So basically all the Game of the Year nominees, except for Resident Evil 4. I mean, I feel like that automatically says, clearly Resident Evil 4 is not the winner here. I could almost... I think it's probably going to go to Baldur's Gate 3, because what's kind of interesting about Baldur's Gate 3 is that the director of the game is also the CEO and founder of Larian Studios. So it's, not only does he have to manage this game, direct this game, he also has to run the business aspect of it, which isn't true for probably all of these other games here. So that's, the one is fucking published by Epic, Alan Wake 2. So, I think that in and of itself is pretty impressive. He has to handle the whole publishing side of it. He's meeting with Phil Spencer to make backroom deals at Gamescom. So, that's probably what it'll be. Who knows? Could also go toward something like Mario Wonder, Zelda, Spider-Man. Probably not Alan Wake 2. Maybe Alan Wake 2. Who knows? Anyway, all right, let's check out some of the other categories, shall we? Best Narrative. It's got to be Baldur's Gate 3. It's got to be... What do we have here? Okay. I have a problem with this list. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Final Fantasy 16, Marvel Spider-Man 2. Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, that's an expansion. That's not a game. That's not a new game. Like, you can't buy that standalone, can you? If you can, I guess. But, that's not a full game. I haven't played Final Fantasy 16 because it kind of, honestly, it kind of looks just like a generic action game. It's got to go to... Oh, Jesus Christ. This light will be the death of me. Sorry, one moment. It really should go to Baldur's Gate 3. It could go to Alan Wake 2. I don't really know too much about the story there, but it seems to be a more narrative driven game than something like Spider-Man or Final Fantasy 16. So, All right, let's check out another category. Best art direction. Okay, this is kind of an interesting one. Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Lies of P, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I like seeing Hi-Fi Rush nominated here. You know, it's definitely got one of the more unique art styles to come out of this year, and I think that creating something original is more impressive to me than just photorealism, because a lot of games do photorealism and a lot of games do it very, very well. Super Mario Brothers Wonder is also, I think, would be very deserving of this award. Lies of P is interesting. I'm not super familiar with it. I know it's like a Souls-like, but I honestly have not even like watched a trailer of Lies of P, so I got more games to catch up on before I go to Lies of P. Best score and music. Once again, like, it is. These are all very similar lists. Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Hi-Fi Rush, Tears the Kingdom. You know, I have Baldur's Gate 3 music playing right now. It's very good. I feel like this should go to Hi-Fi Rush, honestly, because it's a rhythm game, so like the music kind of has to be good. There's one song from Alan Wake 2 that I'm seeing posted a lot. I haven't listened to it, but like everyone's like, oh, it's got to be that. The Baldur's Gate 3 soundtrack is definitely fantastic. Definitely fantastic. Raphael's theme, of course, is I think a big standout. The Down by the River is great. Really like what's playing now, all the camp songs is awesome. The battle theme is good. So, you know, it could go to any of these. Honestly, I don't think Tears of the Kingdom should be nominated. Like, it's, you know, it's just it's not like a score and music kind of game. It's like an ambient thing. So maybe it could go best audio design, but not there. Here we have best performance awarded to an individual for voiceover acting, motion, and or performance capture. Ben Starr, Final Fantasy 16, Cameron Monaghan, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Idris Elba, Cyberpunk 2077, Melanie LeBird, Alan Wake 2, Neil Newborn, Baldur's Gate 3, Yuri Lowenthal, Marvel Spider-Man 2. So I believe Ben Starr is the main character of that. Cameron Monaghan is the guy in Jedi Survivor. I played Fallen Order, and it was good. I haven't played Jedi Survivor. Idris Elba, honestly, like, you know, they nominated him because they're trying to get him to show up, which he probably won't unless they pay him to do something. The girl from Alan Wake 2. Neil Newborn is Asterion, I believe, from Baldur's Gate 3. And he's, you know, I think definitely one of the standout performances of the game. I think Lae'zel's actress, whoever she was, would be deserving of this kind of nomination because she had to like really put on like a gruff, like kind of gravelly voice and also say a lot of made up words. So I give her credit for that. But Asterion is really, you know, one of the more standout performances, I think. A lot of people are like talking about the narrator. And while, you know, the narrator had a lot of lines to read, so I credit her for that. Like, you know, part of being the narrator is that she has to like, you know, keep a very like straightforward, almost monotone delivery. Like, she's not, you know, acting in any sort of way emotionally. She's just telling you what's happening. So I don't know if, you know, that actress is probably able to give a great performance, but I don't think that the narrator role was like, you know, something amazing. So yeah, I would like to see it probably go to Neil Newborn there. I think it'd be very deserving. Let us check out another category, shall we? Okay, here's one that was funny that got a lot of criticism. So what do we have here? Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Fortnite, Genshin Impact. A lot of people are saying like Cyberpunk, a single player game. I mean, it's Cyberpunk definitely needed the more work here than more work than any of these other ones over the past year. Final Fantasy 14. Did I see? I feel like I've said Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy 14, is something that I'm always seeing people be super excited about. God, it would be so funny if Destiny 2 was nominated. So it is kind of weird how, Cyberpunk is in here. I don't know. I don't think there's rules about this that they're, restricting certain games from appearing in this kind of list. I think it kind of just filters itself out. So there's probably nothing saying it can't be Cyberpunk 2077 coming into a list like this. And, they did do some big updates to it. I played Cyberpunk 2077. I didn't really enjoy it very much. I played it after it was got the next gen patch, but before it got this latest round of patches. I you can't fix what's ultimately a game that's just kind of boring. So that one's getting a lot of attention. One thing that's also getting a lot of attention here, best community support, going to Destiny 2, because they fired their community support team. No Man's Sky snuck in here. It's interesting that Baldur's Gate 3 is in this list. I mean, they do a lot of bug fixes, which is good, but I don't know if that is really deserving of getting a nomination. Okay, here's what might be the most controversial of all these, aside from Game of the Year. The games we have here: Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. So Dave the Diver, if people don't know, is not an independent studio. It is owned by Nexon, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. If we're going by the rules, or what is evidently the definition here, best independent game for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publisher system, Dave the Diver is not at all it is not outside the traditional publisher system. It has a very traditional, very large, very lucrative publisher. So it kind of creates the question here: what is an indie game? There's sort of two ways of looking at what is an indie game. This is also something I was considering making a full video on, but I'll just say it here to get my thoughts out there. There's two schools of thought to what an indie game is. There's, it is made by a small team. Maybe the gameplay or art style is a bit untraditional. And, it is not some big AAA thing, not part of a giant franchise that, comes out every single year. It is a small game, a small scale, a creative game made by a small team, basically. Then there's the other school of thought, which is an indie game is a game put out by an independent studio, self-published. Which, and there's kind of, there's pros and cons to both of these definitions. The pros of the first one is that, it does encapsulate, a lot of actual indie games made by small teams who don't have backing of a giant corporation behind them. But you end up in situations like this where there is this game, Dave the Diver, made by a giant corporation that looks and feels like an indie game, but is, it's not. It doesn't carry, the development of it does not carry the same level of risk the development of what you might say a true indie game does. The problem with the other side of it, though, where it's just if you're looking strictly at like the independent development aspect of it and publishing aspect of it, is that, you know, you like a lot of giant games are technically self-published. Tears of the Kingdom is self-published, made by Nintendo, published by Nintendo. Nintendo is not owned by anyone else. So like technically it's just as independent as a lot of these other games. Now, or, you know, you could argue even more independent. Baldur's Gate 3, technically, you know, self-funded, self-published. A lot of people have said, oh, well, it's part of the Dungeons and Dragons thing. They had to pay for that licensing. So if anything, I feel like that makes them even more independent. So they are, you know, Baldur's Gate 3 is technically an indie game if you look at it in that lens. So you see what I mean? There's pros and cons to both of these definitions. And like you can think like, okay, it's got to be games made under like this certain budget. But then like you can't be auditing every game studio's budget to see if it counts as an indie game. So kind of like no matter what, we're going to end up with problems like these. Because you also think about like Devolver Digital. That's an indie publisher. Like kind of by virtue of a game being published by someone else, that kind of makes it not indie, you know? Or something like, let's say, Shovel Knight, or, you know, that's had immense success. Or if, like, I think Hades is a good example. Supergiant is an independent studio. It's a fairly small studio, but it's definitely it's a lot more established than you know, almost any other studio here. And I love Hades, but you know, it's you kind of I don't think it loses what, you know, the aspects of it that make it an indie game, but it's not like the risky endeavor that Bastion was. So, you know, there's always going to be problems with this category. It is kind of weird to see a game like that on here. I think the big problem here is if it said best indie game, that is open a little bit more to interpretation, because like indie is not a real word, or at least it's becoming a real word. Like the definition of indie is still being molded. Best independent game, like Dave the Diver is not independent by any definition. So like you can't really like you can't say best independent game and then have Dave the Diver in here. So I think that's the real problem. If it said best indie game, it's kind of like, well, whatever, like, you know, it's up to the Game Awards interpretation of the word indie. Independent is in the dictionary, and Dave the Diver is not independent. Best debut indie game. I'm curious. I looked at this list before, but okay, here it is. Best debut indie game: Cocoon, Dredge, Pizza Tower, Venba, and Viewfinder. I gotta say, I am pretty surprised that Pizza Tower did not make it into the main best indie game list, best independent game list. I think that probably mostly has to do with it just releasing on PC. It kind of limits who sees it. And sort of like what I was talking about in terms of the this versus the DICE Awards, I'm guessing that it will be nominated for Best Indie Game at the DICE Awards, because I think the game development community is a little bit more in tune on games like Pizza Tower. You do kind of wonder though, like what's the point of these two different categories? I think this Best Indie Debut used to be like a Subway, like it was like Subway's Fresh Indie Studio or something, which is so weird to have like it was just so weird to have a sponsored award like that. And I guess Subway dropped out, but they kept the category. I don't know. It's not needed. Let's look at Best Action Game. There's a lot of these categories to go through. It's a long show. Best action game. Armored Core 6, Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Remnant 2. I don't have too much to say about any of these games because I have not gotten around to playing them. I'm surprised to see Dead Island 2 in here, actually. There is one missing here, and keep it in mind for when we go to another category later. Final Fantasy 16 is not in here. That's pretty surprising to me. Let's move on then to. Let me go away from that and skip to Best RPG. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought. Never mind. I thought Final Fantasy 16 wasn't nominated for Best RPG, but I guess it is. This is going to go to Baldur's Gate 3. Starfield got this nomination, at least. Look at that. Starfield right there. So, good for Starfield, I guess. It's going to go to Baldur's Gate 3. That's kind of no question about that. Best action adventure. Looks a lot like the Game of the Year list, doesn't it? Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Jedi Survivor, Tears of the Kingdom. Jedi Survivor sneaking in there. I could see this probably going to Spider-Man 2. It is, an action adventure game. Like if it was more an action game than Tears of the Kingdom is, even though Tears of the Kingdom is the better game. So it'll probably be between those two. Let's take a quick peek into best fighting. God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, Street Fighter 6. It's definitely going to be Street Fighter 6. I've never heard of God of Rock or Pocket Bravery till now. I didn't know All-Star Brawl 2 Nickelodeon already came out. I thought that was still a bit away. I actually played the first one of those. It was okay. It's just like, it's clearly a Smash Brothers clone, but some of the character choices I don't really understand. Like obviously, SpongeBob's in there. Like why is like Jimmy Neutron only made it into this one? There's no Timmy Turner. Like come on. There's like Ren and Stimpy and stuff, but best family game. We've got Disney Illusion Island, Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It's going to go to Super Mario Bros. Wonder. There's no question about that. It's cool that Disney Illusion Island is in there, though. And I heard good things about Party Animals. But I need to get around to Sonic Superstars, though. Best Sim Strategy. I don't even know what Sim Strategy games released this year. Oh yeah, Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, City Skylines 2, Company of Heroes 3, Fire Emblem Engage, Pikmin 4. I mean, I feel like this is probably going to go to Pikmin 4, right? Like Advance Wars 1 and 2. I didn't play that. I didn't play Advance Wars 1 and 2. I played Advance Wars, the original Advance Wars on the Game Boy Advance, and it's a great game. But I don't know about, it winning best sim strategy. I feel like Pikmin 4 is probably the best one of these. I feel like City Skylines 2 doesn't have that like big technical issues. I know nothing about Company of Heroes 3, and then Fire Emblem Engage. I don't know. I need to get around to playing that one. I like Three Houses a lot, but so look, best sports racing game. EA Sports, FC 24, F1 23, Forza Motorsport, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2, Turbocharged, and the Crew Motorfest. God, it would be amazing if Hot Wheels won this. Did Gran Turismo 7 release this year? Like, should that be in the contention? Because it's kind of crazy that, if so, it was below Crew Motorfest and Hot Wheels Unleashed. I don't know. I kind of want to play Hot Wheels Unleashed, to be honest. let's move on to best multiplayer. Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. It's interesting here that this is, it's a lot of single player games. Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4 can be played single player, there's Mario Wonder. So, like, you think this kind of category would be more online games, but kind of when you think about it, it has to be something like this because only so many like new multiplayer focused games come out in any given year. And so you kind of have to rely on some of these single player games with multiplayer aspects. Honestly, I could see like, God, if Mario Wonder wins this, which it might, that would be turmoil online. So let's God, I feel like I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now. Best adaptation. Okay, this is a fun category. I actually like this category. Castlevania Nocturne. Oh, did that come out? Shoot, I gotta watch that. The original Castlevania Netflix series was really good. Gran Turismo, the movie, Last of Us TV show, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and then that's Twisted Metal there at the end. Let's just block that fully. No, leave him peeking out there. This has to go to either Last of Us show or Mario movie. I mean, I feel like it will probably go to the Mario movie just because it's more of an original work than Last of Us show is, because the Last of Us show is just like exactly the game, but a show. From what I understand, it's very good, but Mario movie was awesome. I gotta check out Castlevania Nocturne though, because I did really like the original series. Best most anticipated game. This is a category I kind of have a problem with. I don't know. I think it's done. Dumb. Like give an award a game to hasn't come out yet. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, and Tekken 8. I feel like this will probably go to Hades. Probably either Hades or Final Fantasy, right? Like, because Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, a lot of people are looking forward to it, but 2 Like a Dragon games came out this year. So like, how much can it how anticipated can it be when like a Dragon Gaiden just came out like 2 weeks ago, or even less than that probably. Star Wars Outlaws looks pretty cool. Tekken 8, I don't see a fighting game winning this. But Hades 2 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, they're the games I'm most looking forward to on this list for sure. I would put my money on Hades 2 for this, just because people like the indie darling. And Final Fantasy VII Remake, while it is quite good, it's kind of bloated. It's not as flawless as something like Hades is, so I think it should probably go to Hades 2 here. Content Creator of the Year. Oh, I'm excited to see this one. Iron Mouse, People Make Games, Quackity Spreen, and Cypher PK. What? I wasn't nominated. What? How can this be? The Game Awards is a sham. It's a sham, Jeff Keighley. How can you not have me here? Honestly, the only one here I've heard of before is People Make Games. So I don't know who any of the rest of these people are. Rest of wise, it's just esports, right? Esports, yeah. Like, I'm curious, what is best esports event? League of Legends World Championship, Blast TV Paris Major 2023, EVO 23, International Dota 2 Championships, and Valorant Championships. Why is this an award? I don't know. It's like, I don't understand esports. I really don't. And so yeah, that's basically it. Interesting picks all around. Most of it I would say it makes sense. A few controversial picks, but that is sort of where a lot of the excitement comes from. Let's move on to something else. Another reward show that I'll go through quickly. The Golden Joysticks. Not as impactful as the Game Awards, definitely, but pretty interesting. It's actually been going on since like the early 80s, which is cool. So I appreciate that part of it. But let me just go through some of these. Best storytelling, Baldur's Gate 3, makes sense. Best game expansion in Cyberpunk, that makes sense. Best indie game, Sea of Stars. I think Sea of Stars will probably win the indie one there too. At the Game Awards, best VR game, Call of the Mountain, that makes sense. Best multiplayer game, Mortal Kombat 1. Oh yeah, Mortal Kombat wasn't nominated at the Game Awards for best multiplayer. That's funny. Best game trailer. That's a dumb category. Best streaming game, best game community. That's that's funny that category exists. Breakthrough Award, Cocoon. Critics also with Alan Wake 2. Best lead performer, Ben Starr. So hey, look, maybe he could be picking up the award at the Game Awards. Best supporting performer, Neil Newbon. Actually, you know what? I like how they have it divided into lead and supporting. That's like how the Oscars do it. Best actor, best supporting actor. Because it's kind of a different ball game. Although I guess, you know, for Baldur's Gate 3, like, there's not really a lead actor. I mean, there's your main character's voice, but they barely talk. So maybe it'd be the narrator, but I don't know. PC Game of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3, makes sense. Xbox Game of the Year, Starfield, makes sense. PlayStation Game of the Year, Resident Evil 4. I mean, I'm kind of surprised it's not Spider-Man 2, but maybe Spider-Man 2 didn't make the cutoff because this came about just the other day. Most wanted game, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, okay. And Ugodi, which stands for Ultimate Game of the Year, is Baldur's Gate 3, which I think will probably win at the Game Awards. So, interesting to see that there. There's a lot of news about layoffs this week, but I think I'm just gonna kind of skip it because you know it's gonna be the same thing every week for the next year. Review PlayStation Portal. The PlayStation Portal released. Let's check out this review for it, shall we? It's an inexpensive way to play your PS5 games on the go, so long as you have strong Wi-Fi. Sounds about right. You know, a lot of people think of this as just super dumb, and I don't fully disagree, but like a lot of people just seem mad that it exists. And like, why would you be mad that this exists? Like, you don't have to go buy it. Like, it might sell poorly, who knows? Like, it won't affect you. 7 out of 10. Wired, I guess that's the good section. Streaming works remarkably well. Controller is nearly identical to the typical DualSense controller and comfy. Large, attractive 8-inch screen, solid battery life, less impacted on what game you're playing than other handhelds. That makes sense because it's streaming. Tired. You cannot use the PS5 to stream TV or do other things while playing on the Portal. That makes sense, I guess. Can't stream TV on it either. That's dumb. Requires fast internet speeds and good home Wi-Fi to play most AAA games. Touchpad controls are awkward. Oh god, yeah, I can imagine that. No Bluetooth audio. PlayStation Remote app replicates most features. What, you know, I did not think about the touchpad aspect of it. It's got to be just like a touch screen there. So like it does, like, it looks like a DualSense split in half. Yes, with with a screen in the middle. But, you know, the DualSense is a great controller. Like, this looks more comfortable to hold than the Switch in handheld mode. So, I think it makes sense why they went with this form factor. Even if it's not the most beautiful thing in the world. Is this... Oh, hold on. I'm going to look coffee shop. Let's go back to Baldur's Gate. Anyway... I need water. Anyway, I'm not gonna read the whole review, but you know, there's not gonna be a huge demand for this thing, but that's fine. You know, it could have a niche audience. Let's check out Snoop Dogg again. No, I just want to put that in the next one there. 1 second. All right. So, Larian Studios is, of course, bringing Baldur's Gate 3 to Xbox, as they announced quite a while ago. And the release date will be announced in the Game Awards. It's weird that it's like an announcement for a release date when we know it has to be like less than 2 months away because it's December. So it's got to be a shadow drop, I would expect. The question, however, is this going into Game Pass? It might. Game Pass is trending right now, so that could be a good sign. But they would need quite the large sum of money. Xbox would need to pay quite a large sum of money to get Baldur's Gate 3 into Game Pass. So, I don't know. I think it'll be shadow dropped at the very least. And that could be cool to see. Let's check out some fun stuff. Super Mario RPG is coming out tomorrow. That's fun. 83 on Metacritic. User score is coming soon, I guess. Well, it'll come tomorrow, I suppose. It is, you know, it's a game I'm excited for. I'm going to be playing it tomorrow because I never played the original. So, it's exciting that this game exists, first of all. Let's check out a few of these reviews here. Let's see. Player 2 gave it a 100. Super Mario RPG is a delightful remake of an underappreciated classic that will thrill new and old fans alike. It's filled with wonder, whimsy, and wit, and respects its origins while easily carving a new place in Nintendo's current lineup. I think there's a lot of these websites like I've never heard of before. Player 2, Tierra Gamer. Playing Super Mario RPG is a clear example of wanting to return to the places or moments where you're happy. Where you were happy. That's kind of morbid, but okay. Dream fans idealize so much in their mind. The dream fans idealize so much in their minds is finally reality, which turns out to be very pleasant. The music is something. Called Connected. Super Mario RPG is so faithful to the original that calling it a remake feels disingenuous. This game is more of a top-to-bottom remaster. Every scrap of it has been rebuilt, polished, and reborn for the modern era. I mean, aren't they kind of contradicting themselves there? Every scrap of it has been rebuilt, but the game is more of a top-to-bottom remaster. A top-to-bottom remaster is a remake. I don't know. Games.ch. Like, what is that? In some ways, developers could have been more courageous concerning innovations, but besides graphics and a new arranged score, there's not much really new stuff. Playing it safe is fine. I want to see the most negative reviews. There's no negative reviews. Let's see the mixed reviews. IGN Brazil. God damn you, IGN Brazil. Being exactly the same as original, it's inevitable that the new Super Mario RPG is a good game, but it doesn't bring any novelties that justifies its full price. Well, the revised graphics are the only big draw. Games.cz. Super Mario RPG provides an excellent way to introduce a remarkable classic to a modern audience, Fortunately, it doesn't go the extra mile. Its effort to be as one-to-one as possible occasionally feels a bit dated. I mean, there's a lot of the same kind of criticism here. It doesn't do enough new. But I think for this game, they don't really need to, because it's going to be, most of the people who play this, it's going to be their first time playing Mario RPG. So that's not really a big negative for many people. Similar with some reviews, let us check out Persona 5 Tactica has reviews. That is coming out tomorrow as well. So good for Persona 5 Tactica and Mario RPG. It is scoring a bit lower than Mario RPG. So there's 2 RPGs coming out tomorrow. One looks to be better than the other. Persona 5 Tactica is a game I'm very interested in. I just finished up Persona 5 Strikers a little bit ago. Oh, hello, PK Mono. It's Persona 5 Strikers was a very good game, I think. It was a good game gameplay-wise on its own, and it was a good game as a Persona 5 sequel. This, from what I understand, it's not like canon, because Persona 5 Strikers is absolutely a sequel to Persona 5. This is not that, and it looks to be another way to revisit the same characters from Persona 5. But that's not it doesn't look to be as much of a sequel as Strikers was. But let's check out. Well, the Day 1 DLC seems a bit out of place. Oh, never like that. The game, complete on its own, offers a rich and engaging story. Despite the absence of traditional social elements, the game's fantastic blend of gameplay, storytelling, and character, blah, blah, blah. Not reading the full review. From Vandal, we have, this is a fun RGP. They meant to say RPG. That can feel a bit underwhelming during its first few hours, since it tries to welcome inexperienced players, but it manages to shine more and more as we progress. So that's good. Checkpoint Gaming. Again, it seems like it's different websites for each that review each game. You never hear about any of these. Persona 5 Tactica is another successful voyage for the Phantom Thieves. Little is better than the warm feeling inside of revisiting this cast of characters I'm kind of know so fondly and intimately, but in a new but familiar style. That's from NME. Persona 5 Tactica is a confident entry into Atlas' growing catalog of Persona 5 spin-offs, offering fans more time with the original game's cast of lovable misfits. So, that'll be a game, I think, that will be something great to pick up on sale when it's on sale in 6 months. But, yeah, not something day one. Also this week, we had an Indie World presentation. This was a fun watch. Let me just see here on the Nintendo website. They got a little breakdown of everything that was announced. There was no Hollow Knight Silk Song. There was no Pizza Tower. Shantae Risky Revolution. I have a question. Is Shantae... how is Shantae an indie game? They're, Way Forward at this point is I feel like a pretty established publisher. So, and Shantae's been around forever, since the Game Boy Color, and indie games didn't really exist back then. You needed to have a traditional publisher. So I don't really understand how it's indie. I guess it's a small team, but I don't know. It's the same kind of thing I was talking about back when I was talking about the Game Awards nominees earlier in the show. Outer Wilds Archaeologist Edition. This was actually announced for the Switch 2 years ago, and it's just now coming out. I have to imagine they had to do a lot of technical work, because it's not the most graphically intense game, but it's definitely the most computationally intense game. It's got whole planets with all their own gravity, all orbiting around each other, and it is it's pretty, even though it's fairly small scale when it comes to outer space games, like what they do is really impressive. Like it's, totally seamless. Like lift off on one planet, you pilot your ship to lift off and you pilot it through the space and then you land on another one. So like it's a very impressive game in that aspect. And also storytelling wise, I really cannot recommend this game enough. Actually, I played it a few months ago on the PS5, and yeah, it was it's an experience. Like it's incredibly unique. And it's absolutely worth playing. It's a little bit difficult to get into, I will say. Like your first couple hours of playing it, you're gonna be like, I have no idea what's going on. Highland Song, or there was On Your Tail. That was like the game with the animals, which actually looked quite nice. I think the developers were talking about like growing up on the coast of Italy, and I was like, damn, like, I wish I had your life, living in a village in Italy making video games. Like that sounds awesome. Highland Song looked quite good as well. Nice like cinematic platformer. Backpack Hero looked, I think, pretty interesting in terms of like a lot of the game is like you have to pack up a backpack in a very efficient way, like kind of like Resident Evil 4's inventory system. There's a couple words that concern me in this. Let me highlight them here. Roguelike, deck building roguelike. That just like when I hear that, I don't know. That it seems like that's like every indie game out there now. So I'm sure it's good. I gotta admit, this is kind of part of an indie presentation where I zoned out a bit. The art was very cool, but don't remember too much about it. Blade Chimera looked really, really cool. I think that was the standout of the show, to be honest, in terms of new releases. It, looked like a bit like a Castlevania or like a Blasphemous kind of thing. And yeah, it looked it looked pretty awesome. Spring 2024 is a timed console exclusive. It's interesting to me when we see these timed console exclusive indie games, because so like Nintendo cut a deal with this company then, right? To come on Switch first. So clearly, like that says to me that this is probably got to be a good game, because Nintendo has an interest in having it for their platform exclusively. And for an indie game to get that kind of attention from a company like Nintendo, like, hey, I think that very much bodes well for the quality of the game. Like, I guess maybe, they could just be focusing on the Switch now and there's no exclusivity agreement, but, they're a small team, so they can only put it on so many consoles at once. They're like, all right, let's put on the Switch. The Switch is selling really well. Let's do that. And then, so they're just saying that, but I don't know if that would be how that works. The rest of these I mostly don't remember. I probably should have watched this more recently, but Braid Anniversary Edition is coming. I gotta admit, I kind of figured Braid was already on the Switch, because The Witness isn't on the Switch, but Fez and Super Meat Boy are. That's what was one of the games. Those are all three of the games showcased in Indie Game the Movie. But newly added developer commentary from Jonathan Blow. That's pretty neat. Braid is a very super unique game. That's exciting. Shantae has a weird track record, especially regarding that weird DSiWare release. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that one. It's like I feel like Shantae's like been around a very long time, and like has had moderate success throughout all of it. Let me see what other topics do you have tonight. Okay, here we have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, aka Yakuza 8, is the longest Yakuza game yet. If you go at it continuously, you'll get sick. Oh, Jesus Christ. Games are too long these days. Like, honestly, like, games are just too long. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth will be the longest Yakuza game to date. If you're with Game Watch, translated by Automaton Media, the studio head dubbed Infinite Wealth a monster class game longer than anything we've made so far, and something that can't be completed in just 1 or 2 all-nighters. That means that there are a lot of people are going to hesitate to play the game or will end up having it wait on their shelves. I found the possibility of that kind of outcome sad, so I thought we have to get everyone hyped up enough to play it. That, like, shouldn't, like, if you were thinking about that aspect, that outcome, what, like, you don't have to make the game that long. He goes on to say, we have to get people to play the game in about a week or a month, even at the cost of their health, which is why it's our duty as creators to generate enough to be excited about. I mean, he's just joking here. This is just joking around. This is, Yakuza after all. I've thought this way for the past year or two. For a game like Infinite Wealth, we have to get a festival going on. It would feel kind of rude to drop such a long game and be done with it. No. God. So Yakuza Like a Dragon was over 50 hours. I'm partway through this series right now. I finished 4 a little while ago, so I'm going to start 5 fairly soon. And from what I understand, 5 is one of the longer ones. God, I really value shorter games a lot more these days. Not every game has to be so insane, like such an insane time commitment. So it's, that's great. It's a little bit concerning, to be honest, but, All right, we have another story that's not super great. Monolith's Wonder Woman game may be live service. Okay. A recent job description has hinted that Monolith's upcoming Wonder Woman game could incorporate live service. The 2021 Game Awards. Man, like 2 years ago, and literally nothing since then. Let me see. One job posting for lead software engineer of gameplays indicated that Monolith's Wonder Woman game could include live service elements. Under its nice to have section, it reads, experience helping maintain a live software product or game. The developer hasn't divulged specifics on how much of the live service aspect will be incorporated into the game. If Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is anything to go by, it may be that live service will be a key component. Interestingly, the job posting also reconfirms that Monolith's Wonder Woman will ship with WB Games' proprietary Nemesis system. I don't think that a job listing like this is super indicative one way or another. Like, it might not be, it's under the nice to have section is one thing. Maybe they're just trying to, like, when you are hiring for a position, you want the best candidate possible. Maybe Wonder Woman isn't live service, but maybe they're thinking their next game will be. Or maybe they think, you can work on this game, but you can also work on this other game. I wouldn't be surprised if Wonder Woman was a live service game, because that might just be what WB Games is trying to do to get money out of everyone. I think that would not bode very well though for the game, because every week you're hearing about live service games getting shut down. So, gameplay lead. So, here's what I'll do. I'll apply for this job, and I'll when I get the interview, I'll ask them, is Wonder Woman a live service game? Right. I got a couple more topics here before we finish up. But if you've come in a little later, I would recommend also rewinding and checking out the Game Awards, because I went over most of the awards and gave my thoughts on those. So let's see here. All right, the PlayStation Plus games for November: Teardown, Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen, Superliminal, and more. All right, let's see here. We can go through. There's a list here somewhere, right? I don't want the giant images. All right, maybe I do want the giant images. All right, let me go back to the top. Pretend that didn't happen. Teardown for the PS5. Wasn't this this was in their state of play, if I remember. It's like a Minecraft looking heist game. Plan the perfect heist using creative problem solving, brute force, and everything around you. Did this release, or is this just going straight into PlayStation Plus? After that, we have Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen. You know, Dragon's Dogma is 2 is coming out fairly soon. So that's cool that they have this here. I gave this game a shot. I played it on the Switch. I didn't really get into it, but I think I might need to give it another try. To see if I can get into it again, because I probably didn't really give it a fair shot. Mobile Suit Gundam Extreme versus Maxi Boost on. My God, what a mouthful. Dead Island Riptide Definitive Edition. Okay. Superliminal. This is a game I've had my eye on for a while, and I haven't really gotten around to playing it. This and Viewfinder both look quite similar. So I think it's cool that it's in this promotion here. Eden Chronicle Rising. Nobunaga's Ambition. Taishi. Alternate Jake Hunter. Daedalus, The Awakening of Golden Jazz. What are these names? Really? What? What is that kind of name? New York City set crime thriller visual novel. River City Melee Mock. Is that guy? Oh, okay. He has his hand in his pocket. I was like, does he have his hand down his pants? Like, looks a little suspect to me. Grandia. Jetmoto. Klonoa. The Klonoa remakes. I've been meaning to check these out for a while. Parappa the Rapper 2. PS4. Now, the question is... Oh, they have comments on this? All media games. Sony going full Grinch this year. Wow. It's funny to higher price, worse games. I like people roasting Sony on PlayStation.com. I feel like that's very funny that that's possible. Gosh. I'm not subscribed to PlayStation Plus anymore. I was on there for like a year, and then when it expired, I was like, okay. Done with that. Because the only online game I play occasionally on PlayStation is Fortnite, and that's free anyway. So, no, I don't play like Call of Duty or anything like that. All right, one more thing before we wrap up here. This is kind of strange. Hades coming to iOS via Netflix games. So you kind of look at that like, okay, coming to iOS, that makes sense. But via Netflix games? We're excited to announce that our Game of the Year winning roguelike dungeon crawler Hades is coming to iOS devices, including iPhone and iPad, courtesy of Netflix games. Faithful translation of our game, including all the responsive action surprises available on other platforms. It's like, what? So, what's Netflix Games? Because I was wondering this. I didn't know what Netflix Games is. It's a premier video streaming service, of course, Netflix is. On top of that, your standard subscription also includes a variety of excellent games you can download and play right now on compatible devices, at no additional charge. We're drawn to the opportunity to introduce Netflix's audience to our game. Look forward to hearing from our players there. What? That's so weird. Like, do you go to like the net? Like, if you want to play this on your iPhone, do you go to the Netflix app? And like then click Hades from there? It's very strange. Is it gonna be? The game can't be streamed, right? Oh my god, that would be awful. Imagine playing Hades streaming on a phone. It's such a high-paced game, fast-paced game. Compatible iOS device. Fully customizable touch controls. You can also connect a Bluetooth controller. That would be the only way to play it, probably. No Hades coming to Android. Sad to see, but hey, could happen one day. But who wants to play a game like Hades on phone? I didn't know Bastion Transistor were on. Transistor would actually make sense because it's like kind of a strategy game. So, hey, Transistor's great. All right, I think that's just going to wrap it up here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Like I said, before, I plan to make this a pretty regular thing, I think. Also got to keep working on the videos as well. So, yeah, I'm enjoying, taking about an hour and a half each week to just talk about some of the news that I don't get to in a normal video, because I'm trying to keep those very focused on like game design and everything, as close to like games themselves as possible, not so much this industry stuff. So it's been fun. All right, well, hope you have an enjoyable weekend.